Welcome to the Paintbrush Prairie podcast. I'm Kinsey Ashcraft, a boutique owner, firefighter wife, and mama of 2 cowgirls, homesteading on a cattle ranch in Oklahoma.
And I'm Talia Watcott, a Western artist and illustrator, mama of 2, and wife of a mountain man, raising babies in the mountains of Utah.
Together, we share a passion for the Western lifestyle, homemaking, and Indian paintbrush flowers.
We're here to inspire and encourage you as we each create a simple but beautiful life on the prairie. Well, hey, how's it going?
It's going.
We're here with another episode of the fabulous Paintbrush Prairie podcast. We're tired.
Is anybody out there?
We might get a little.
Is anybody listening?
Might get a little loopy on ya. We both had a day, but
yeah,
here we are.
When we record at night.
Yeah, that's like the best time that we can do it, when both of our husbands have our kids and they're like putting them to bed and things. But it works out good. We're just, a little bit tired by the time it gets to this time, but it's all good. So, on today's episode, we will be talking about a major summer activity for a lot of you, and it may be even a fall activity for some, but we are talking about fairs, and whether that's county fairs or state fairs, everyone kind of has a different schedule depending on where you are in the country, but we're just going to kind of share a little bit about our county fair or state fair experiences and just kind of celebrate the fun that they are, and they're a big part of summertime. So, Kenzie, take it away.
All right. Well, like I was telling Talia, I'm a little bit of a history nerd sometimes. I like to know the reason behind things. So I asked her, I was like, how did county fairs start? I mean, like most counties have it all over the country, but like who came up with the idea? So I did a quick Google, and it says the American County Fair developed in the early 19th century when agricultural reformers in the northeastern United States organized local exhibitions to promote modern farming. Typical events included livestock judging, exhibits of new agricultural implements and techniques, and plowing contests. So, they've been going on for a good minute. But I just wanted to throw that in there, that a little bit of the history behind county fairs and such. So, anyways, I love the county fair. I've been doing the county fairs since I was a little girl. My parents did the county fairs, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, we've all been doing it since however far we can remember. But my kids are participating now, so it's like extra fun for me. And we've actually been working on our county fair exhibits. When you listen to this episode, I think it will actually be the week of our county fair. We do it the end of August in our county, and then we have the Oklahoma State Fair in September, and then we have, which is in Oklahoma City, and then we have the Tulsa State Fair. It's usually in October. So those are our big fairs for Oklahoma, and yeah, our county fair is really fun. It's been going on for over 100 years in Pontotoc County, which is where we are. We have a horse show. We have the livestock show for cattle, goats, sheep, pigs. They have chickens, rabbits. A bunch of the local schools will do field trips that week out there. Like a lot of our canning we've been doing this summer, the girls and I enter. We bring things from our garden. They have pie contest. Paisley's entering some art. Scout is entering a couple of her sewing projects from this summer. So there's lots going on at our fair. We have concerts. They have, of course, a carnival. So yeah, it's just fun. For us, it still feels like summer, but we consider it like a fall activity. or at least it is in my brain.
It's kind of like a
But
fall
yeah.
kickoff thing.
Yeah, yeah, just something fun to kind of end the summer, um, kind of what we've been doing this summer, and I don't know, it's just a good time to get with friends and family and check everything out and just have some fun. So, oh, I did mention this earlier too, like the girls are she's in our homeschool 4-H club, and Scout gets to join. She's old enough to join this year, so they get to enter like the 4-H part of some of the contests and things that they have. So that's exciting too.
Yeah, that's so fun when the kids start to get to be that age. I don't know. I always wanted to be, well, I didn't know 4-H existed when I was a little kid, and so when I got into like junior high and high school, I was like, "Oh man, like I wish I was in 4-H." I always wanted to be. So when Cheyenne gets to be that age, she will be involved. What are your early memories of your county fair?
My earliest memory is probably the horse show. So I started like riding when I was 3, like when I could sit in a saddle by myself pretty much. But I remember my first horse show I was 4 because I had my parents had horses, but I had my own very first horse when I got him when I was 4. And I remember I got him around fair time, or maybe it was a little bit before. And I remember getting to do like lead line and walking the barrel pattern or doing the halter class. And so that was probably like my very first actual county fair memory at all. And I always did the horse show. I showed goats growing up. I did chickens at one point.
Really?
Uh, and then, yeah, I did, which like here you know, you wash them and stuff and clean them up, and then you take them in their cage, and judges come by and judge them. So that was like our chicken show. I only did that like 1 or 2 years, but then we talked about our gardening episode about canning. So that's another big memory of mine is like me and my grandmother getting to enter our canning stuff that we had done all summer together. So that was like so much fun getting to go up there and put our entries in together and see how we did. And like we would kind of get competitive and see like who would win in certain categories, her and I. So that was always fun. We'd laugh and joke about that. And then one of my like fondest memories was like her and I winning the state fair of Oklahoma with our peaches. Like that is like my pride and joy because that's my favorite food. And so us like winning that category was like super fun for the state level.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't remember life without the county fair. So I just love that we get to like keep passing that tradition down to our kids.
Yeah, it's really fun, and it's just kind of like one of those memories that you have to have. Like, are you even American unless you like
Yeah.
remember or like grew up going to the county fair or the state fair? Like, it's just so unique.
What about you? What are your earliest fair memories?
Well, so when I was a child, we didn't go to the county fair, but I grew up in a very like not agricultural area, I guess. I don't really know what to say it. It's basically really city, not like huge city, but just a lot of suburbs and cities, and there's like farms here and there, but it's not like a super rural area. So our county fair kind of reflected that. Like it's kind of it has like some of the basics, but it's not as cool as some county fairs. But my family, we would go up to like the state fair, which happens in the middle of September. And so I have a lot of early memories from the state fair. And I mostly was obsessed with the animals. And so going to see the livestock was just like the highlight because I didn't have livestock animals when I was little. So I would just get so excited because I got to go and like pet the goats and pet the sheep and see the cattle, and like that was like what I was there for, and I loved that part of it. And I'm, when I'm like, we're talking like elementary age child. So I did that, and then when I was like older elementary, I think I started entering, or maybe it was junior high, but I started entering artwork into the art show. Because at the state fair, the art show is like a really big deal. And so I entered probably every year growing up, like from junior high on. My mom would always have me enter some kind of artwork, and sometimes I would win and sometimes I wouldn't, but I would compete like in the kids, like, or the youth group. So that was a pretty big thing. And then I would enter the creative arts, which was like not fine arts. So like in the fine arts, it would be like drawings that I would or like I may have done some paintings, but I think mostly drawings. And then, but in the creative arts, it was like more of the crafty things. And so I would do like little sculptures out of polymer clay. So I entered those a few years, and I think I entered like I did some wire sculptures that I entered. So that was just kind of like my big thing. I was really, like I said, I wasn't in 4-H. I wish I was, but I did the art show, and I love to go see the livestock animals and wish that they were mine.
It always seems like they have, like, the best of the best too at the state fair level. I mean, it's like, especially not just, like, with the animals and stuff, but also with, like you were saying, just the arts,
Yeah.
seeing what people, like, made and created. I always enjoyed going up to the Oklahoma State Fair and seeing what people would enter. It was just, like, mind-blowing, some of the creations that were up there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talented artists that would enter their stuff like when I got older, because so when I was in the youth group, I was actually, I would say, like on the medium to higher end of like the quality of artists. So, cuz you get like a wide variety. You have kids that are, there's just a lot of different levels. And so when I was younger, I would place higher. And then as I got older and into more, because I only competed in like the amateur after I was like phased out of the youth or whatever. So I didn't win as much when I got to amateur because the competition gets a lot more neck and neck as you get to those older groups. But they do have a professional division at the state fair, which I am going to enter this year because I do have a few pieces that are done. So it was frustrating because I had finished some of these pieces because I was putting in for a different art show. And I was like, oh, I have these pieces done. Like, I'll just throw them into the county fair because that's like, I knew it was coming up. And I got on, and it had literally ended the day before,
Oh,
like,
no.
they had closed entries the day before I got on to enter. So I wasn't able to put them into our county fair. But yeah, so the first time I actually was really involved in like county fair stuff, I have mentioned this a little bit before, but I haven't really gone into a ton of detail. But I used to play the fiddle. Well, I still play the fiddle. But I used to play in a country band. And in high school, I played for a guy named Charlie Jenkins. And he's kind of like well known around these parts. But we would travel a lot. Like, that was what I did all summer long. Every weekend during the summer, I was at a different fair or city like celebration. So we would play, and sometimes like we were the headliners, and it would just be a concert that people would come and see us. And then there were other times where we were opening for people. And we traveled like all around Utah. We did some in Wyoming. We did some in Montana. Like, I remember one county fair we did in this tiny town in like northeastern Montana. I don't even remember the town's name, but
Wow.
it was awesome. Like, it was a county fair, and it was probably one of the coolest county fairs I've ever been to because it was so rural. And I loved going to those because so when we would go, we usually had to be there in the morning or the early afternoon to do sound check and get all of our stuff set up on stage. And then after sound check, we'd have like 4 or 5 hours until our actual show. So then I would just like go walk around the fair or like, go look at the livestock or just different things, like go to the different food stands and check it out. So I was really exposed to a lot of different fairs during that time, like from the most podunk towns to like really big agricultural towns, like and all over the state. I think I probably played almost every county fair in Utah at some point during that time I was in that band. And we opened for like big country artists like Lone Star and like I can't even think off the top of my head. There's like so many. It was a cool time because that was like my summer was just traveling to different fairs and seeing all of the different ways that different towns do things. So it was pretty fun.
So cool.
But yeah, these days. Oh, and then I did play at our county fair, our Utah County Fair. So that's like our area is Utah County. And I actually did like a solo performance at the Utah County Fair. I can't remember how many years. I think it was just 1 year I did it. But I was like on the stage by myself, like me and my guitar. And then I had another friend that played guitar to like back me up. But yeah. So I have those kind of different experiences. But and then separate from that, I I did start showing in high school when I was in FFA, and so I had dairy goats, and so I did so our I know some county fairs are like the way they do things is a little different. So our county fair is pretty much just a 4-H show. They don't do open classes for livestock. It's pretty much all just 4-H because they just don't have, I don't think they have the people to do the open classes except for horses. They do open classes for horses. We do have a lot of horse people around here. But the 1 year that they did do an open show for goats, I entered my goats. And so I like took one of my wethers down. And I mean, these are dairy goats, they're not meat goats. So I took two of my wethers and showed them. And I think it was the same year I had raised a sheep or maybe it was after that. I can't remember. My timelines are all wonky in my head. But I did raise a sheep 1 year in FFA and I showed him at the state fair and did like the big FFA show up there. And I did show him at the county fair too before that. So those were like my first experiences showing livestock. And then I sold him at the state fair that year. And then from then on, I showed my dairy goats at the state fair for several years in just like the open show. And I had like a bunch of does that I would take every year and babies. And I would show them for that time. And I never did very well. But it was mostly because, like, in the open show, it's really mostly about their breeding and their conformation and everything, not so much about showmanship, which when I was in FFA and I was showing my sheep, I was actually like, I felt like I was a pretty good showman and I got to be pretty good. If I had actually done it, like, if I had showed sheep for like several years, I feel like I would have done really well with it. But I ended up just doing it my senior year in high school. So, and then it was just open show after that. But that's pretty much my entire fair experience.
Fair, we have open and then we also have 4-H and FFA. So you can do, obviously if you're school aged and you're in those um clubs or chapters, then you can show in the 4-H or FFA show, but you can also show in open. So we have that. Ours is pretty big, and same goes for our state fair. But our county also has a spring livestock show, and that is strictly just for 4-H and FFA. So, and that's in March.
Mm.
And then they go on to state for if um in the spring for like the Oklahoma Youth Expo. So they'll do that in March as well. It's usually like around school spring break. But I did that too. But I think it's really cool how you got to experience that many county fairs. I've been to a couple of different ones, and then I've been to like the Texas State Fair, but it's so neat to see how different counties do it and just the variety of things that they offer.
All right, it's time for this week's review of the week. We are sharing reviews that we've gotten on Apple Podcast. And if you'd like to go over and leave us a review, go ahead. We would love to hear what you think of the show. Today's review is from McCoy Mama. It says, "Love this podcast. This is such a fun podcast to listen to. I enjoy listening to it every week and learning about the Western life from these two ladies." Thank you so much for your review, McCoy Mama, and we are so happy to have you listening. Yeah, I think that is one of the coolest things that I have experienced. And like something I'm really grateful for is how much I was able to travel during that time, just because I feel like it's just most people don't get to see that much. I don't know. It was really cool. And you get to kind of get a feel for each little town and each county and each community, and like everyone is so different, like the county fair that's in St. George is like completely different than the county fair that's in Tremont. You know what I mean? Like it's, St. George is in southern Utah, like in the desert, and then Tremont is like the north end of the state, and it's just very different. And then even those, like our Utah county fairs are so different than like the Montana county fairs, and so it's fun. And then you also get to like connect with different people from all over, so it's really fun. Even being on the livestock end of it, I always loved being at the fair because you got to like meet other people that had like the same interests as you. So like when we had our goats, and when I say we, I mean like me and they were my goats, but my mom would often come and like she would help me show, or she would help me take care of them, because like the state fair is in Salt Lake and we live about an hour south, and so but she works up in the Salt Lake area, so a lot of times we'd kind of like split the chores as far as like taking care of the goats while they were at the fair, because they were usually there for about 5 days or something. And so when we were up there, we would meet all of the other crazy goat people and get to know them. And even when I had my sheep, it was kind of fun to like just be around, those kind of people, especially because I don't live in a super rural area and I don't have a lot of friends who are involved in agriculture. So it was nice to be around people who live that more agricultural and rural lifestyle and are like crazy about their sheep too. But it's always so fun. Like I just love going and watching the livestock shows because I don't know. I just love them. I love stock shows. I could sit and watch them for hours. I think they're so interesting. And I love just sitting there and watching the shows and like picking out who I think is going to be the winner, or like where everyone's going to place. Just, I don't know. I like to challenge myself, but that's probably too because I did like livestock judging in FFA. So I always am
I
like,
did too. That was fun.
where would this one place?
Yeah, when I was in college at Oklahoma State, I was it was an animal science class or something. I was an ag business major, but I was in some animal science class, and not that we did livestock judging in it, but we learned a lot, of that kind of stuff, and conformation of animals and weight and different things. And so it is fun going to stock shows and trying to pick out who's going to win. And my girls love that challenge. So
Mm-hmm.
it's neat. And it's a good opportunity. Again, like our last episode was over homeschooling. Like it's such a fun, free, like field trip if you want to do that
Right.
or consider that one. But it's a great trip for your kids and just such awesome learning opportunities for them, like various learning opportunities. So if you have the time, I would totally encourage you to do that and take advantage of that free trip and just kind of show them and also encourage them. That would be a great thing for y'all to do at home, like to enter art, or if you're gardening, enter some stuff from your garden if your county fair offers those contests, and even livestock if you have livestock and you want to do that. We have goats. My girls aren't showing this year, but they're probably going to show at the spring livestock show in 4-H. But it's a great space for them to be in and around like-minded people who are, like Talia said, are into those things and share similar interests.
Yes. And I mean, it's always been kind of like this goal of mine for my kids to raise livestock and show them at least at some point in their life. And I'm not necessarily like set on, like, oh, you're going to be like a champion showman, but I do want them to experience having a livestock animal and being completely in charge of that livestock animal as far as like feeding, watering, caring, and also working them so that they will be able to show them and then actually fulfilling that, like going through learning how to show and then going to the show, competing, and then selling that animal and getting paid for that animal so that they can really see something, a project from start to finish, and that if they work really hard, they can achieve whatever it is,
Yep.
right? Like whether they just go through the show and they don't necessarily win a ribbon or they don't get a ton of money for their animal or whatever, they still can see the whole thing through. And I just feel like there's nothing quite like it because it's one thing to like have an animal that you take care of on a daily basis because that's what you do. But like when you're working towards something like a show, there's like so much involved in preparing your animal for a show and dealing with frustration when your animal will not do what you want them to do or especially in the case of sheep, like they're freaking nuts when you first get them and you have to tame them, right? Like I feel like my sheep that I had was super sweet. Like he had a really soft personality. But I also worked with him a ton. Like I would spend like 2 hours every day in the summer leading him and setting him up and working with him so that he would be prepared. And so by the time I sold him, he was like my puppy dog. Like he would just follow me around and he was so good. And when I showed him, he just like I would set him up and he wouldn't even move. Like he was just so perfect. And when you get him into the sheep show and you just lead them, like you don't have a halter or anything. You just lead them with their head and like he was so good. But I worked with him a lot. And obviously, I was a senior high school, so I was a little bit more like disciplined than maybe like a 13-year-old kid would be. But it was really rewarding to see the transition from like this wild lamb to like this show sheep that I actually earned money from. So I don't know whether you're doing sheep or goats or pigs or cattle. I mean, I think it's really a really good experience for a kid to do it at some point. Even if they don't stick with it for year after year, I think it's a really good experience. And you can do the same thing with horses too.
Oh, yeah. Well, and it's just giving your kid that confidence of, hey, like, I can do this. I can literally train this animal, take care of it on my own for the most part, and see a reward at the end of this goal that I have.
Right. And the whole like showing itself is like the aspect of like the performance and the discipline of like showing, I just think is so good to learn, because you have to be aware of where you're at, where your animal's at, where the judge is at, learn how to make eye contact with the judge. You know, when the judge comes and asks you a question about your animal, you have to be able to respond on your feet and know everything about your animal. Like, there's a lot of expectations that come with it, but I just think it's a really good experience.
We might have to break some of our old show pictures out of the archives and share on our show notes.
I think we're going to put them in the show notes because I have so many that I can share, and I'm sure you do as well. Um, but do you have any like fun stories or anything about your fairs or anything that was super memorable?
Yeah, I don't know if your county fair does this. It depends on how many kids are interested, I think, at ours, to depend on how many, if they have it every year. Because I know they do it at the rodeos, obviously, but our county fair would also do mutton busting. And so, pretty sure my mom has this picture in a frame somewhere. But I was like the only girl one year. I was probably like 6, and I won it. So I was pretty proud of that.
Awesome.
Sheep,
That's awesome.
sheep wrangler, sheep rider, bronc rider. I don't know. Anyway, that was fun. Like I said, the horse show is probably like always my favorite. And then entering the exhibits and stuff. And then I did the goat show and I did sheep, but I did sheep usually in the springtime. And I did that more in high school. But yeah, I love doing it. A lot of my friends showed. So that was fun too, getting to do that with some friends and making those memories together, all of our families. And yeah, it was just kind of part of life. It's just something that we did. My parents showed when growing up, so did my grandparents, and so it was just kind of like a part of life and just what we did. So I really didn't know any different. I didn't know that I knew not everyone showed, but when people are like, "What is that? What do you do?" It was always kind of a shock. Like, you don't know what you do at a county fair, So, but again, I'm in Oklahoma, and that just pretty much comes with the territory. Like
Right.
in any county you're in, you know, we're a very rural town and county, but obviously our state is very rural as well. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
here at the Paintbrush Prairie, one of our favorite ways to preserve food is through canning. We talk a lot about it here on the podcast, and we are so excited to share a company with you that we absolutely love and are excited to partner with as homesteaders and homemakers. 4 Jars USA is a family-owned canning lid company. Their canning lids are crafted with utmost care using high-quality metal that resists bending, ensures durability and longevity. To combat the common issue of rusting, they have incorporated stainless steel into their lid composition. Compared to conventional lids with a thickness of 0.10 to 0.12 millimeters, their lids boast a superior metal thickness of 0.18 millimeters. They personally subject their lids to rigorous testing, ensuring their exceptional performance under pressure and during water baths. They stand behind the reliability and strength of all of their lids. Additionally, 4 Jars lids feature high-quality food-grade silicone that effectively prevents leakage, allowing you to confidently preserve your favorite homemade dishes. With their lids, you can savor the authentic taste of your beloved foods for extended periods. We are proud to support and partner alongside 4 Jars USA as an affiliate for their canning lid company. You can use our code PAINT10 for 10% off any order at 4jars.shop.
I mean, there are definitely areas of Utah where showing is a bigger deal. Utah County is pretty, I don't know. I think there's a fairly good amount of like 4 H kids that show, and it is pretty competitive. But I went to one of the county fairs up north, and it was like the livestock show was like the highlight of the entire fair. Like the 4-H livestock show was huge, and the kids would, because usually like at least Utah County Fair, it happens in early August. So a lot of those animals will go on to like the state fair and not necessarily get sold at the fair. But at this other show, these kids would be selling their animals at this county fair because they would have like a ton of people that would come out and they would spend so much money on these livestock animals. Like at the auction, these animals were selling for like 3 times the amount that they would sell like normally or at other, county fairs because these people would just, it was like an event to try and get these kids as much money as possible for their animal, which I think is so, it's so awesome to see people supporting agriculture and supporting young kids in agriculture like that. So that was one of the really fun things. I think livestock shows are really important, and I think that's one thing that we have to try, like, and in some places I think it's, like probably in Oklahoma it's probably not in any danger of being lost anytime soon, but you know in places where I'm at, I don't even know if there is a stock show at some of these other cities in Utah. Like, I don't know. So it's kind of starting to be a dying art here, it seems like.
Well, yeah, and for me, like, I just think it's just as important whether you're participating in it or not, as far as showing or entering something. It's just as important for people who aren't into that at all just to go and support and check it out and encourage these kids and adults who are doing all of these things to keep doing it and participate in all the activities or go watch. My grandpa, he has been on the fair board since I was a little girl, and he's still volunteering his time, but it is so much work to put these things on. There's so much involved that goes there's so many people involved that have to go into each little show, category, event, even to the carnival, you know. There's so many different moving parts that are in a county fair, and so it's just important that we keep supporting and showing up and going. So, I'm really I'm grateful for the people who don't have to do it, but they do to keep it going.
Yeah. Yep. There's good people that see the importance and see the vision of all of it. So, whether that's the county fair or the state fair,
Yeah.
it's all important.
Our state fair is huge. Well, and like I said, we have the Oklahoma State Fair in Oklahoma City. Like Oklahoma City are our two big cities in Oklahoma. That's it. Um, but like, I mean, we have Norman and Stillwater, which are two D1 colleges, but we call Oklahoma City the city. Like if you're going to the city, you're going to Oklahoma City, and then or you're just going to Tulsa. But like our Oklahoma State Fair in Oklahoma City is huge. It's a really big deal. It's in the middle of September, and I want to say it's 2 weeks long. And then we have our Tulsa State Fair, it's really big too. But the livestock show up there is pretty huge as well. So yeah, Oklahoma, it's a big deal in Oklahoma still. I'm glad.
Yeah, it's funny. This is not fair related, but when I was in Oklahoma just a few months ago, when we got together, we were
Yeah.
listening to the radio. We were driving to the airport, and we're going through Tulsa and listening to the radio. And there was an ad that came on for like a huge cutting horse competition. It was like, I don't even remember the name of it, but it was like an ad for like this cutting horse competition. Like it was just like an everyday thing. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, I have never heard an ad like on just like a regular radio station here for anything like that. And I just thought it was so cool. I mean,
So funny.
it probably sounds so silly, but like the only thing we ever hear about is like there will be ads on the radio for like rodeos, like big rodeos, but not like cutting horse competitions. So I just thought it was funny. It's just a different world. So,
It is. Different culture.
all right. Well, is there anything else that you want to include about how fun our county fairs are.
No, like if you want to hop onto our blog post on our website or on our Instagram, trying to show up there daily, but just hop on and let us know like how your county fair operates, or if you enter, or if you show, or your kids show. We love hearing about different parts of the country and how you guys operate. So just interact with us there and let us know. We'd love to chat with you in those spaces. And again, if you don't mind to leave us a rating and review, we would so appreciate it.
Yes, and we're starting to get some really sweet reviews in, and we will be sharing those on the show as they come in. And we're so thankful for those of you who are listening. I actually looked today and we hit 500 downloads, so I feel special. That's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. So thank you guys for listening and keep it up. We have some fun episodes planned, and we are going to be getting some really cool guests on coming very soon.
Excited.
So, and we will have some merch in the shop pretty soon. So, we'll let you know when that's available for you guys.
We have some really fun ideas that are also useful and have a purpose, but are also unique and one of a kind. And we're also going to be sourcing a product or two that is handmade from some friends of ours. So, yeah, be sure to hop on our website and sign up for our newsletter, because when that starts to become available, we will be sure to email our listeners, subscribers, and let you know so you can get first dibs on our merch shop when it's open.
Awesome. Well, we will end this episode right there and hope you guys have a great week.
Have fun at the fair.
See ya. Thank you for listening to the Paintbrush Prairie podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you don't mind, would you please leave us a rating and review?
This will help more ladies find us, and it will help us make the show even better. If you know a fellow Western homemaker who would enjoy the podcast, will you please share it with them?
If you'd like to support the podcast, you can become a patron at patreon.com/paintbrushprairie. You can follow us on Instagram at paintbrushprairie.
You can find me, Kinsey, on Instagram at @farmgirl and my blog, farmgirlblogs.com, to see what I'm up to on the ranch, Western home inspiration, or subscribe to my meal plan subscription at farmgirlblogs.com/hayfield-meals. You can also shop for unique Western goods at my rural boutique and general store, farmgirlboutique.com.
You can follow me, Talia, on Instagram at The Pinion Range, or my Western art page at Wapiti Sage Design. You can also purchase my artwork or book a custom piece at wapitisagdesign.com. I also blog over at thepinionrange.com, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, where I share the behind the scenes of my life as a Western artist and homesteader.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time from the Paintbrush Prairie.